Good morning, Malta and Gozo, and welcome to another episode of Lovin Daily. My name is JP, and today I'm joined by my co-host, Rochelle. How are you, Rochelle?
Bonġu JP, jiena ninsab tajba grazzi, inselmu li telespettaturi tagħna, Maltin, Awċin u daw kollha li qegħdin isegwuna minn madwar id-dinja.
Absolutely. Without further ado, let's get into our 5 headlines for today. Nightclubs, discos, and bars close as Health Ministry roll out new COVID-19 measures. Journalists questions ban from live press conferences in bizarre broadcasting decision. AFM rolls out EN-MASSE drug testing following cocaine party allegations. Drinking alcohol on streets of BUGIBBA and St. Paul's Bay could soon be banned. And days-old body found inside BUGIBBA apartment block shaft. Rochelle?
Mela, nightclubs, discos u bars magħluqin wara li l-Ministru tas-Saħħa ħabbar miżuri ġodda biex nikkontrollaw l-imxija tal-COVID-19. Min għada, ġifieri l-erba', in-nightclub, discos u bars ħajkunu magħluqin sakemm ma jservux ikel, ġifieri ir-regoli ma japplikawx għal bars u gażini li jservu l-ikel. Tajjeb ngħidu li t-tiġin ukoll ħajkollhom xi restrizzjonijiet dawn ma jistgħux iseħħu jekk ma jkunux madwar mejda, ġifiri f'setting ta' restaurant biex niftehmu u japplikaw ukoll għal boat parties dawn il-liġijiet. Ġifiri inti ma tistax tagħmel kulinkwa party li jkollu iktar minn 15-il persuna. Din il-ġimgħa ukoll llum jew għada għandha titħabbar Amber List li ħajkun fiha potenzjalment pajjiżi li għandhom riskju għoli ta' COVID-19. Tejb ngħidu li l-bieraħ kellna 69 il-każ ġdid u 10 persuni li għaddilhom. X'taħseb JP dwar dawn il-miżuri?
I mean, I think they're a bit late, but finally we're getting some measures in. I mean, people have been calling for bars and discos and bars to close for some time now, especially after a huge partial cluster and whatnot. I mean, obviously they come in to effect tomorrow. Let's not forget also there's a 15-person limit as well in terms of groups to help prevent the spread of COVID-19. I mean, a lot of people have taken it different ways. I think one of our biggest stories yesterday was about a BUGIBBA bar that was having a pre-shutdown blowout where they were serving €1 drinks. It didn't bode well with the public. I imagine, obviously, the situation is quite serious right now, and these kind of moves are incredibly irresponsible. But they're measures that I think are very welcome by a lot of people. Obviously, the industry takes a bit of a hit again, but for the sake of public health, it's super important. Like you mentioned, the amber list of countries that Malta is planning to introduce in terms of travel restrictions was meant to be announced yesterday, but there are plans from health authorities sides to announce it. Fingers crossed this morning, if not within the next few hours for sure. Keep an eye out on Lovin Malta for the latest updates on that. Moving on to our next story, within the lines of press conferences and COVID-19, but a somewhat bizarre story. Journalist questions were banned from live press conferences in a bizarre broadcasting authority decision. So following yesterday's press conference with Charmaine Gauci and Chris Fern, where BUGIBBA was not present, the general format I think a lot of people have gotten accustomed to is journalists ask the relevant authorities questions about what they just discussed, or questions about other political or social issues. In this case, the press conference ended abruptly. Journalists weren't given the chances to speak, and the broadcasting authority TVM then came out in a strange post on Facebook saying that they were banned from allowing journalists to speak. This was a decision made by the broadcasting authority following complaint by the Nationalist Party back in May when BUGIBBA went on a 1-hour political spiel about various other things not related to COVID-19. And following the complaint, the BA noted that the BA decided, or Broadcasting Authority decided that journalists would not be given the chance to ask questions unless it was a medical bulletin in line with Article 119 of the Constitution. Rochelle, what do you make of all of this?
Jiena li din hija xi ħaġa vera assurda li x'jekk it-TVM huwa l-istazzjon tal-istat għandu jkun tal-istat u jirrappreżenta l-vuċi tan-nies. Issa jekk il-ġurnalisti qegħdin jistaqsu l-mistoqsijiet Hija responsabilità tal-awtorità kompetenti f'dan il-każ il-Prim Ministru li ma jwieġibx bil-mod li għandu jwieġeb u jwieġeb kif suppost u jwieġeb il-mistoqsijiet tal-ġurnalisti u mhux jaqbes għar-retorika partiġana biex jiddefendi l-partit tiegħu irrelevanti li politikanti ikun irrelevanti l-partit jekk qegħdin fuq l-istazzjon tal-istat l-istat hija hemm biex jagħti informazzjoni liċ-ċittadini tiegħu. U din il-ħaġa, din id-direttiva kif ġiet imposta mill-Broadcasting Authority, mill-Awtorità tax-Xandira li hija vera tmur lil mill-prinċipji demokratiċi. Għaliex jekk inti ħadd tillimita mill-ġurnalisti jisaqsu u jiġu mxandrin fuq il-PBS, inti awtomatikament qed tisforza n-nies, mhux tisforzahom imma ma tħallilhomx għażla oħra milli jmorru fuq il-wan u fuq in-net. Issa in-numri kulħadd jaf jaqrahom, forsi hemm interessi kummerċjali, min jaf l-aħbarijiet jinbijaw iridu, ir-riklami wkoll jinbijaw iridu. Għalija vera mussa assurda li tillimita d-demokrazija x'jekk jiena mhux komda nara n-net jew il-wan u nixtieq nara l-PBS għalfejn m'għandix nisma' il-mistoqsijiet tal-ġurnalisti u kif dawn ħajġu mwieġba.
In fact, the IGM Journalist Lobby Group condemned that move almost straight away in a press release yesterday, condemned it and rightfully so. Labeled as a kind of a totalitarian move, you know. I don't think a lot of people understand how scary or how much ramifications a move like that can have, what precedent it sets in the future for our democracy and the principles of it. But yeah, not a good move on the broadcasting authorities' half.
100%. L-aħbar li jmiss, il-forzi armati ta' Malta tittestja droga wara li allagatament kien hemm il-kokaina f'parti. Il-forzi konfermaw li soldati kollha li kienu fix-xift dakinhar ġew mitluba jagħmlu test tal-awrina biex jiddeterminaw jekk kienx hemm xi użu ta' sostanzi illegali. Is-soldati kollha rriżultaw fin-negattiv filwaqt li persuna waħda rrifjutat li tagħmel it-test u tkweċċiet minn fuq il-post dak il-ħin stess għaliex l-armata għandhom zero drug tolerance policy. Tajjeb ngħidu li din l-aħbar ġiet imxerda fil-pubbliku għaliex Godwin x'kembri biex niftehmu l-persuna li xxerja l-video tal-gate li ta' Pembroke poġġa screenshots fuq ixxerja screenshots ta' WhatsApp fejn kienu qed jgħidu din il-ħaġa. X'taħseb JP?
I mean, at this point, I'm not particularly shocked by these soldiers' actions. I mean, it's safe to say that the Malta's national security forces and armed guards and police aren't held in the highest regard. You know, they come under scrutiny over the past few years as well, and embarrassed. And this is another chapter in that saga, really. Obviously, although it is a shame, it's incredibly embarrassing as a nation that we have people who somehow manage to get through the army and people of this stature who and then end up giving a bad name for everyone because, like you said, the army has a zero tolerance policy, so they were straight on it as soon as he refused to do the urine test. That soldier was out, and now they're rolling out mass drug testing. To kind of sweep out and get rid of anyone of his stature, but it leads to the question that this person obviously has been with the army to the point where he's been stationed and was on duty, so he obviously went through some training and whatnot, and he managed to get through. A complete letdown, a complete embarrassment for our countries. You can see that AFM are taking action. There is an internal query going on. I hope something is going to be done, something quite serious about it. Obviously, we don't want to have people, especially in a time like this when we look at them as kind of a beacon of national security, when we're in a bit of a pandemic, that these people are supposed to be taking care of us, taking care of our borders, and they're doing cocaine in some barracks somewhere. Not good.
100%.
Moving on to our next story, drinking alcohol on streets of BUGIBBA and St. Paul's Bay could soon be banned. St. Paul's Bay Local Council has proposed a bylaw that would see the banning of alcohol consumption in public areas, or well, specifically on the streets and whatnot. This comes after complaints by residents that they, they witnessed people drinking on the streets and the ramification it has in terms of litter, in terms of pollution, in terms of rowdiness and whatnot. So, in fact, it's quite an interesting bylaw because it has bipartisan support. So it's quite supported. I personally, I'm totally for a law like this. I think other countries have introduced it where you don't see alcohol being consumed on the streets, and their quality of life tends to be a lot better than ours. It's not just the act of drinking alcohol, it's everything about it in terms of becoming drunk and causing a scene and disturbing the public and littering and whatnot. There's a lot more. Exactly, and especially if you're a local resident, St. Paul's Bay and Aura and BUGIBBA, where this law is potentially going to be introduced, is quite a touristy area, but also a lot of residents living there, and it's quite a nuisance for them. So I'm totally for it. In fact, another person who is really in support of this is Anthony D'Elia, St. Paul's Bay local councillor, who happens to be Adrian D'Elia's brother. He spoke to Lovin Malta about it, explained to us the reason behind this bylaw, and in my opinion, it's totally worth it. I totally support it. What do you think?
Jiena naħseb li hija idea tajba u iktar kunsilli lokali għandhom jieħdu din l-inizjattiva għaliex naħseb issa mhux insemmu festi u hekk għax ovvjament għandu jkun hemm exceptions u mhux skuża għax il-bandli u mhux il-bandli għax il-bandli għandhom il-gabbani tagħhom. Eżempju, inti dejjem tista' toqgħod tieħu drink fil-gabbana jew fil-postijiet li jbieħu drinks. Imma naħseb ir-rispett tar-residenti huwa importanti ħafna u inizjattivi bħal dawn iġibu iktar paċi fil-lokalità għaliex nemmen li ammont ta' disċiplina huwa importanti biex nirrispettaw in-nies li jgħixu madwarhom.
Absolutely.
L-aħbar li jmiss katavru jinstab wara ġranet ġo xaft f'appartamenti BUGIBBA. Skont il-pulizija, il-vittma instab għal ħabta ta' satejn ta' wara nofsinhar fix-xaft tal-ex Paloma Hostel. Tajjeb ngħidu li din il-hostel mhux l-ewwel darba li hija msemmija fuq l-aħbarijiet għax f'Awwissu tal-2016 iktar minn 100 persuna ġew imkeċċija mill-post għaliex kienu qed jgħixu f'kundizzjonijiet vera ħżiena. Għamlulhom rejd il-pulizija tal-immigranti u l-arajju u indunaw is-sitwazzjoni li kienu qed jgħixu fihom u ma setax tkun waħda aċċettata. La s-sanità tagħhom u laqqas an-nies li kienu qegħdin jgħixu madwarhom JP.
Yeah, no, I mean it's going to be a sad story. I mean the victim is suspected to be a resident of the building of the area. He's expected to be part of the migrant community as well. It comes to, you know, it's quite everyone knows that area is occupied by a lot of migrant communities. Who unfortunately aren't really taken care of that well, and somehow this poor person ended up in this terrible situation. And like you said, this hotel has a history of wrongdoing and neglect and whatnot. So police are obviously investigating the matter further, and we'll just have to wait to see what other information comes out. On that note, this brings us to the end of our episode. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I bid you a day full of lovin'.